Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Practice Best Practices Essential Marketing for Creatives workshop. I'm Den Santoro, the Program Manager for Practice Best Practice, among other things, and I'll be hosting the workshop tonight. We'd like to start off by thanking our principal sponsor, Fall River Arts and Culture Coalition, FRACC, who's running the Ignition Project for Artist Grants, which tonight is a part of. Ashley Okino, the director of FRACC, will tell you a little bit about that in a minute. We also want to thank our generous funders, Rockland Charitable Trust Foundation, the Carver, Dartmouth, and New Bedford Local Cultural Councils, local agencies which are supported by the Mass Cultural Council and the Mass Cultural Council itself, which is a state agency. We also are supported by generous in-kind support from our partners, the National Park Service, New Bedford Art Museum, Artworks, New Bedford Co-Creative Center, New Bedford Creative, and S&G Project Gallery Art Brokerage. We also want to thank Helen Granger, Patti Rego, and Allison Wells for taking time from their busy lives to create the workshop content and take the time to answer your questions tonight. A few notes before we begin. If you have questions during the workshop, please type them into the chat. Some of our board members and I will be monitoring the chat. When we select your question, we'll ask you to unmute so you can ask your question out loud. This will also give you the ability to ask follow-up questions if needed. If you prefer for us to read them rather than go on screen yourself, tell us when you type it into your question into the chat. Please keep yourselves on mute during the presentations. You can unmute when asking questions. We suggest you put your Zoom in speaker mode rather than gallery mode during the presentation. Closed captioning is available, and you can turn it on for yourself with the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. We'll have a short survey online, which you can take right here in the meeting, which we will put up near the end of the session. Feedback is really important to us, so please fill it out. Also, you can add comments about the workshop in the chat as we are wrapping up, or you can email them to contact@practicebestpractice.com. We'll be recording tonight, and we'll also put the recording of this workshop and the resources and the transcript online at practicebestpractice.com within a few days for those who missed it or wish to review. If you're on our email list or social media, you'll see the notices. All past workshops are also there for your viewing. We hope you've liked us on Facebook and Instagram and signed up for our email list. Although our workshops are always free, they do cost us to produce them. If you would like to make a tax-deductible contribution to Practice Best Practice, you can find a donate button on the top of every page on our website. All that money goes to us. None of it is taken out by PayPal. Now, here's Ashley Okino, Director of FRACC, to tell you a little bit about the Ignition Project.
Thanks, Den, and hello, everyone. I'm really thrilled to see so many people here participating tonight in the workshop. So FRACC is let me say that again. FRACC is very proud, there we go, to have launched our pilot Ignition project. And what we were able to do with this project, we've presented, this will be the third workshop of 4 in a series that we're collaborating with Practice Best Practice on. But this project also has awarded 10 grants of $2,500 to creatives in Fall River. And some of those creatives are on the call tonight. So congratulations again on your grant award. And what they're doing with this award is they are implementing public-facing projects throughout the summer and fall here in Fall River. And so I do encourage everyone to visit the FRACC's website, which is thefracc.org, and you can learn a little bit more about what we're doing with the Ignition Project. And also visit us on social media. You can visit us on Facebook and on Instagram through the Fall River Arts and Culture Coalition. And you can learn a lot more about what the 10 projects are that are happening. And you'll learn about the upcoming workshop that we'll be offering again with Practice Best Practice, and when the recording for this workshop is available online. So thank you again, everyone, for attending. And I do also want to just recognize that this would not be possible. I know we're a sponsor of this, but this would not be possible without the support of the Creative Catalyst Grant, which comes from the TDI program from Mass Development, which is funded by the Barr Foundation. So we thank them again for their generosity and supports for arts and culture. And so, Den, I will turn it back to you.
Okay, great. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to our presenters tonight. Helen Granger is an artist and design professional with skills in website design and development, brand building, print and digital production, graphic design, information organization, production management, and so much more. Patti Rego is the Executive Director of Viva Fall River, a community-based commerce, culture, and creative economy initiative that draws on the city's unique and diverse assets to foster economic revitalization, support active community engagement, inspire a vibrant night scene, and elevate the profile of the city as the premier South Coast destination. Allison Wells is the owner of Allison Wells Fine Art Gallery and Studio in historic downtown New Bedford, where she showcases her paintings and features guest artists throughout the year. She's in many public and private collections and has exhibited around the world. We suggest you read their full bios on our website for more info on the panel's background. Now, without further ado, let me turn things over to Allison to begin.
Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thank you. So today I'm going to be talking about social media, specifically Instagram, because that is my focus platform. I do post on other platforms, but that is my focus platform. And what I wanted to say about that is I also post on TikTok, and that if you look at my followers on TikTok, it's way higher than Instagram, but I don't want you to confuse the numbers. It's about quality over quantity. So today I'm really going to focus in on Instagram, some of the best practices, and some of the things that have worked for me. So let me share my screen and begin. Okay, great. Everybody seeing my screen? Yes, okay. All right, so we're going through with the tips and tricks. Okay, here are the topics I'm going to go through. And the first two are priority. The first two, I really want you to focus in on that. And then I will go into the others. I know a lot of people want to talk about reels and all of these things, but the first two, your profile pic and your bio, very important. And then we'll go straight into types of posts, what to post, and rules of engagement. All right, so without further ado, let's go straight to profile pic. Okay, this is very, very important. A photo of yourself or a logo. But I will suggest that you do not only use your logo if you are marketing a brand, not associated to a person. So if you are the face of the brand, you are behind the brand, I would strongly suggest that you show your face. If you are a brand where there are many different people or it's an institution, then the logo works. But I really wouldn't do that if you're an artist, especially, or a small business owner. For me, I used to post my logo many times, and my logo is one of my paintings. So I thought that was great. I loved it. But it still wasn't too clear about what it was that I was showing. And I remember doing one of these Instagram courses, and they did suggest, especially for artists and people who own their own business, and you are the face, to put a photo of yourself. And I know some of you don't want to show yourself, and a lot of artists are like, well, why can't I just show a painting? So it just makes people relate to you more, especially if you're a creative person. People want to see who is behind those beautiful paintings or those beautiful sculptures, or a product that you make. Also, close-up photos. You want to make sure you can see your face, or if it's a logo, you see the logo. Clear and bright, not wobbly, or it's not dim. You want to make it sure it's crisp, makes sense with your brand. So for me, I'm a mixed media painter, art educator. I'm not going to have in my logo a picture of my cat. It doesn't go with my brand. Like, what is it? And I've seen things like that, and you're confused. So you don't want to confuse your viewer as what your brand is. Okay, I'm going to go straight into your bio. So the bio now is the lines that you have under your profile pic. It can be a few different things, but I recommend anywhere in between there. So name, you want to have your name. Sometimes people might start with what they do as their first line. And that is if your name is in your handle. So usually at the top, you would have the handle, what your name is. My handle is Allison Wells Art. So I don't necessarily have to put Allison Wells again, but I like to have it there. So Allison Wells, and then what do you do? What's your credibility? So what do you offer? What do you serve? So that's so important. You know, many times before, I think I had it wrong, and it was all about, well, sale. What am I going to get? But it's more about what can you do? What can you give your viewer? Okay, how can you serve them? And the credibility is like, you know, I'm a New York Times bestselling author, or, you know, I was in this magazine or that. And so those things help when somebody's deciding if to follow you or not. Call to action, CTA, those are so important. You must give a call to action. So you're telling them to do something. Usually you're pointing them to the link, which is the next line. You should always have some link. You always want to take people off the site, take them off. Of course, Instagram, TikTok, all of these social media platforms, they don't want people to come off of the site. They want you to just keep scrolling. You want to stop the scroll. And when people read that bio, you've engaged them. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they will click. So you might check out my website. That's kind of general. But suppose you have a course, online course now, or a free book. Usually free things help, and people want to click it. And then you take it straight to, you know, a website, or it takes them to your email. So you sign up for the email. You want to get them on that email list. And then again, Helen will talk to you more about the importance of the email. So those are the 4 steps there for your bio. And I'm going to give you some examples. So these are some people I've followed, that I've learned from them. This woman, Kenya Kelly Griffin, she's actually huge on TikTok, and she gives a lot of advice of how to run your TikTok, etc. But this is her Instagram page, and her profile is very clear. Look at her bio. Look at her pic, her profile pic. Her face, she's there, you can see her face, it's clear, it's a bright photo, and it's up big. She's not standing on a rock far, far away waving, and you don't even see who it is, right? Now let's look at her bio. Kenya Kelly, her name is clear on the top. The next one, the next line is what she does. What she offers, her credibility. Teaching vertical video strategies to business owners. Past clients, TikTok, QuickBooks, and Vistaprint. Those were her clients. So she's enticing you with this, her credibility. So in case you want to work with her, then call to action, CTA, right underneath there with arrows, marketing tools below. And then you click her link and it takes you, okay? This is another one. The Lucas O'Keefe, that's his handle. His name is in full right under his photo. His photo, you can see the picture of him. Now, he's one, I've learned a lot of tips just from, I didn't even do any of his paid stuff, but just from his posts. His posts are packed. And yes, he does reels, but he does a lot of carousels and informational carousels. Carousels are like a picture, but you keep swiping. So there are many images. You can do up to 10. So sometimes you can do photos and pics. I do photos of my artwork, and then people who have educational things to sell, to give people, they do that. So look at his bio. Lucas O'Keefe, social media marketing. And then in the side, he has his pronouns. Then underneath that, sharing easy tips and tricks. So sharing easy tips and tricks to help you grow your Instagram. So you know exactly what he's about. Then the CTA, call to action, get my free ebook, right? You have something free right there. Boom. Arrows pointing down to the link, he's taking them off. If if you caught his attention and you want to go further, you click the link. Okay, here's another one, a local one for everybody to see, Third Eye. And the reason I chose this one is because that's the logo. This is where a logo works, okay? It's an organization, so it's not one person behind as the face of the brand. And so their logo, now, your logo wants to be catchy, it wants to be strong, and this is a very strong logo. It's a nice contrast, the dark blue against the white. So catches your eye immediately. Now let's look at the bio. Third Eye Unlimited, the name nice and bold. Underneath, if anybody was thinking, well, what does Third Eye do? Underneath, youth empowerment, community organization, hip hop culture. Boom, right there. Very clear, very precise. I know exactly what I'm getting into, okay? And then underneath, they have the address. Now, if you have a business, you have a brick and mortar business or an organization, you put the address, that is fine. And then they have their link. The only thing I would say is the call to action just between the address and the link. So if you look at the link, you can tell it's a donor link. So it's for donations. So I would just suggest something like donate now or donate with an arrow. It just calls to actions. Sometimes people need to be asked what to do. You just say a few words of what to do and they'll do it because it's an easy thing, okay? The next. So this is mine for an example. And as you can see, look at this circle. My image is big. Now, before I had my logo, and let me tell you, I love my logo, but it was up close. You couldn't really see what it was. I wanted people to know, people wanted to relate with me, the artist. So I used a photo of myself. And then the same gentleman over here, I learned from him how to do the background. And so you can learn from different people. So he walked you through, I think it was a carousel or something, how you can use a picture, you edit around your picture, and it was pretty simple. I'm not going to go through that now because I don't have the time, but these are the things I thought it stood out. So, and I remember when I learned it from him, he had a blue background behind him. It matched with his brand. And when he commented on people's posts, it stood out. And I noticed ever since I've had that, it makes me stand out if I'm commenting or, even if somebody comes to my page. And that orange is part of my colors of my brand. Okay, first line, I have my name. I use a little emoji. You can use emojis through the whole thing. Art gallery owner, mixed media painter, art education. Right away, you know what I do. That's my credibility. Underneath that, I have a brick and mortar gallery. So I put the address. Then next, call to action. Art workshops, arrow pointing down. Online store, arrow pointing down. Now you can change this around. Right, I have art workshops because right now I'm giving art workshops, but it ends next week. So I'll probably take that out and just have the online store because I have new things in my store. My link is a link tree. Before I would just have my website, but I noticed that sometimes if I have a lot of things, people have to click, get the drop down and choose and look for what I'm talking about. So Linktree, very easy to get. You can Google it and take you through the steps. It's free. You have a link and you have all your different links in a row. So when you click that, I usually like to put the ones that I have on my profile right at the top. Okay, so those are just some examples. And so those are the most important things, the profile pic and your bio, because when people are scrolling and they see your post, let's say your post catches their eyes, they like it, but then they want to know more about you. They want to follow you, but they want to know more. So they click to the profile. That is when you want to hold them with your pic and with your the other information in your bio, telling them exactly what they're going to get from you. Okay, so here, types of posts. We hear about reels, single photos, carousels. Now, reels, everybody is reels. Now, all of you who were on Instagram before, we were, including myself, I was mad when they came out with reels because we just felt Instagram was copying TikTok. Instagram was not meant to be like that. It was always meant to be photo sharing. And so this really pissed off a lot of people. But the algorithm, they wanted to post reels. And so that's what they were pushing. They were not pushing anything else. The good news is just a few months ago, they released that they've started to push single photos again. So for those who are nervous about the reels, you can still get some traction from single photos, but I would suggest you try with the reels. It's not too hard. You can keep it very simple. You don't have to do all the advanced things you see some people doing. Carousels, we talked about that. That's photos, but more than one, and you're swiping through. Stories are not posts. Stories are what you see at the top of your homepage, but they're people that you follow. So the good thing is that if you want to grow, you want to post. So you're posting reels, you're posting single photos, you're posting carousel, whichever ones really move you the most. But then stories, you cannot grow from your stories. People who don't follow you don't see your stories. Only people follow you will see your stories. So that is when they get to know you more. They can see a little bit behind the stage, what goes on your morning routine, or, if you walks through the woods, you can make it as private as, you don't have to do very private things, but you could just tell them a little more about you, or maybe your process behind the scenes in my studio. Sometimes I love to ride my bike down the south end of New Bedford. And so I would take photos of the beach and, Fort Tabor and stuff like that. And that only goes in my stories. Some of you who love to post your pets, that should go in your stories. Now, it's okay if you show your pet here and there on your page or with you, but let it relate to your brand. If you're constantly showing your pet and it's not relating at all, then, it's taking people away. It's confusing them at what your brand is and what you're trying to present. Okay, so then we go to what to post. And these are just some ideas, and there's long ideas of what you can do. Trends, there are lots of trends, especially in Reels, because some of you might be like, what would I post? So if you click on Reels and just scroll through people's Reels, sometimes you would see a trend. So they might be using a trending sound, they might be lip syncing something, they might be talking about something, but then you could just insert your brand, and you don't have to do anything that's uncomfortable to you. So you don't feel, you can still grow without dancing. I know you see a lot of people dancing on there and doing all sorts of stuff. Do what's comfortable with you and what's best for your brand. But you can do a trend and relate it to your brand. Top threes. So suppose I was a travel blogger and I'm like, top 3 destinations for honeymooners, you can do that in carousels. You can do that in Reels. How-tos and tutorials. I do a lot of how-tos and tutorials in Reels where the camera is just facing down in my hands and I have it, like very fast, so it's quickened and you're seeing me collaging, painting, whatever on my journals. I love to do that. So a little how-to, people like that kind of thing. It's still within my brand because I teach those things in my gallery and online. Your products, please show us your products. But remember this, we do not want to get salesy. We do not want to get super salesy. I used to do that and I've learned it's about giving. It's about educating. And your products, you can come up with all sorts of creative ways of showing your artwork or your products or what you do, what you offer, okay? Before and after, that's always a great one. How something looked before and then after. Do's and don'ts. And also a little humor. Sometimes I always throw in a little humor. It's usually related to my theme. I love doing like humorous stuff about artists, like what artists do, the quirky things, or sometimes I tell a funny story of something in art school, but I'm relating it. Sometimes my husband makes a cameo and people love that. They're like, oh, I want to see your husband, and he makes them laugh. And we try and relate it a little bit. And it's never too much, just a little bit off and on, once every 3 months or something, I might pop that in. What it does, it makes you relatable. I didn't like, a lot of people would say, you're such a business person and I'm, serious and whatever. And then they saw the reel with my hubby and it made them realize, oh yeah, you're human, it just really, you're relatable. And that's what you're doing because you are creating communication and relationships through what you're posting. So you don't want to just be cold with it. And 5, which is my last slide, rules of engagement. Yes. Now, are you a poster and a ghoster? Do you post and ghost? Please do not do that. And trust me, I did in the past, but you must be consistent. If you want to grow, you want to market your business, you want to market yourself, you need to be consistent. And I know there are a lot of people out there saying, post 3 times a day, 2 times a day. And, it scares us, so we just don't do anything. But please be consistent. If you don't want to post every day, sometimes I post 5 times a week, and I might take a break on the weekends. And there might be a day in between I don't post, and then I post again, but I'm constantly on there. I try to post every day, but you can decide you want to post every other day, but be consistent and be thoughtful about what you want to post. Reply to all comments. I see people have comments there. Now I understand the big, the ones who have a lot of followings have hundreds and thousands of comments. You cannot answer all. But usually if you have like 5 or 3, please comment to them. Of course, except if they're spam or haters, right? You just delete and block. Now, ask a question in your caption. Very important. I love to do this. When I learned about this, it's like, oh yeah, this is perfect. People love that. And you would be amazed that people respond. Not all the time, but usually you ask a question because you are involving them now. Whatever the post was, you are bringing them in to get their opinion or to give them, for them to give you an example of what you were talking about that happened in their life, whatever. They love to be feeling included. And then the last part, use CTAs. We talked about CTAs, call to actions in your bio. You want to do it in the caption as well. Everybody knows what caption is. Those are the words where you are describing what your post is and it's underneath. And so at the end of what you write, you want to say, please share, or see link in bio, or whatever, or let me know your thoughts on X, Y, and Z. That is a call to action. It's including them and it's asking them to do something specific. So that is it. But what I want you to know is that please pay attention to your profile pic and your bio. Those are the first things people see when they go to your profile. And also have fun with it. I know it could be overwhelming and scary, but have fun with it. Be creative with it. And, know many times the algorithm is just crazy. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. It's taking us all over the place. That is why it's important to take people off and you get them on like an email list. And Helen will talk more about that, where you can control that. You remember the time when Facebook and Instagram were down for a day and people were going crazy, what they're going to do with their business or whatever. Yeah. Well, if you have a proper email list or something else where they are, then you don't have to worry about that. So thank you very much. And that's it for me. And Den, I bring it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Allison. End your screen sharing. Thank you. That's great, Allison. And we'll have plenty of time for questions afterwards. Remember, if you have questions, if you think about them at the time, simply type them into the chat. Next up, we have Patti Rego, who's going to be talking about Facebook.
Right, let me unmute and then it's always like it's like the first time I've ever used this medium. Every time is the first time. So hi, good evening, everybody. So yes, Facebook, the redheaded stepchild of social media. So the purpose of this presentation is to explore the various ways that you can leverage Facebook to grow your network, increase your exposure, which will hopefully translate into more work and or more compensation. So what I'm going to offer you is my experience with Facebook, my knowledge of the platform, and how I use Facebook to market Fall River, and more specifically, the Viva Fall River brand. It's not going to be a commentary on the company that runs Facebook and Instagram and its practices and its policies. We all have our opinions. It's strictly functional, not moral. But love it or hate it, Facebook is still the most widely used social media platform in the world. So I'm going to start off with a stat because I do like a good stat now and again. Based on figures reported in May on datareportal.com, Facebook had 2.989 billion monthly active users in April 2023, which makes it the first the most active social media platform in the world. And that indicates that roughly 37.2% of all people on Earth today use Facebook, which is slightly scary. And who are those people? I can tell you just on the surface level that according to these stats, the audience skews a little male, but only slightly by 56%. But I think the big elephant in the room that needs to be addressed is age. You hear it all the time. Facebook's for old people. So, media hype and headlines, they make it really difficult to understand who's really using Facebook. And, Facebook doesn't make it any easier. They don't provide a detailed breakdown of the advertising audience by ages. So there's really no easy answer. There's no easy way to calculate the average age of its active user base. But despite, various articles telling you that there's an exodus of younger users, data still shows that young people are still the heaviest users of Facebook around the world. So based on, as you can see on my slide, based on the latest available data, the median age of Facebook's advertising audience is 32 years old. And 51.7% of their total audience is under the age of 34. So if that's old, then I am ancient. So, and it's true though that, I'm not going to lie, there are obviously more engaging, or maybe not even engaging, more hip and visually stimulating social media platforms, particularly for creatives whose work is really visual in nature. Instagram can really create attention, and it's definitely, a sexier platform for sure. But why do I prefer Facebook? I personally think it's easier to tell a story. And I also think that having that ability in the caption to put a direct link that somebody can just click on without having to do the whole link in bio thing, I personally think that that's, I still think that that's really powerful. Although, to Allison's point, I also use Linktree. I think Linktree it's so easy. It could not be easier. And the nice thing about Linktree is you can disable the links and keep them up if you want to go back and use them again. But then you can also see who clicked on those. And so, like, did you do better? Did you drive more traffic through, to your website, or was it to your art workshop? So it's just another layer of metrics, but it's free. You can get the free version, and it's great. And I don't think there's any harm in doing both mediums or multiple mediums, but if you only have time for one, then you should just consider your audience. At the end of the day, it's what's right. Like, and when I say audience, it also includes their age and other factors, like how the people in your area, the people, if you market to people in the South Coast and that's your area, how do they consume media? Like what are the trends, and what are the time zone also? In the South Coast, I personally think that there's still a big reliance on Facebook. And for me, it gives my brand better results than Instagram. But that's, I think, due to the nature of the work that we do. So, that's my, I actually will say, Facebook for me is also really relevant because it allows you to create Facebook event pages and also join groups and create your own groups. And we're going to go into that a little bit later in this presentation. So those are the reasons why I personally think, Facebook is still, in the running for something that you should use for your business. So we're going to start from the very beginning, and that's establishing your business's brand. And I know that might be a hard thing sometimes for creatives because your art and your work or your writing is so integral to who you are. It is an extension of yourself, and it's highly personal. But it's essential to establish a business page and create content about your business, not your personal life. So there's definitely a lot of what I'm going to say that's going to echo what Allison said. And of course, that's within reason. Behind the scenes, or get to know the artist. That's like little snippets and little glimpses into your life. That's awesome. That gets people to kind of endear themselves to you. But I'm talking about repeated birthday party posts, or like memes, or jokes that maybe don't belong, that you might say with your friends that just don't belong with people who you want to buy your art. So I think establishing boundaries between your business and your personal pages is really important. And I know that a lot of people have started out with personal pages, and you might be worried about losing followers. The easiest thing that you do is the minute you set up your business page, you go to your personal page and you there's a button that says invite friends, invite every single person on there to like your business page, and you'll probably get a good portion of them. And I've never really heard of anybody having a bad result from that. So so that's the first thing you do is after you set up your business page, it's really easy. You just go on to Facebook, and you just set, create a business page. It's right on there. That's the first thing you're going to do is invite all your friends. The second thing you're going to do, and I say to do this right away in your privacy settings, whenever I've set up a profile, I go right into my privacy settings or my settings and I look at everything. Please make sure that your posts are shareable and they're able to be seen by the general public. Super important. I can't tell you the number of times I look at somebody's post and it's like, can you please make this shareable? I'm trying to share with my friends. And right there, you might miss that comment, then you've missed that opportunity for that person to share your message. So those are just two little things right off the bat. And I will also caution you to, once you have your business and your personal page, always make sure, as you can see here where it says share on the page you manage, make sure you're sharing on your own timeline and not on a page that you manage, because you don't want to confuse that and post something that you meant for your personal page on your business page. I think the most important reason, though, to have a business page is the Meta Business Suite. And I could probably do a whole presentation on that. And I'm still exploring all the different things that you can do with that. But the Meta Business Suite is where you do all your business. So it's your insights, your analytics, your ad account, your boosted posts, ways to message, ways to have, manage your messaging. You can also create events and book appointments, and you can also actually sell your products directly through Facebook right on the business page. And Facebook has, I checked it out. They have a couple really quick tutorials at different levels, from just, how to, just get in and do the basics to really, you can really dig in on there and get some good insights. So I definitely think that creating a business page is something you should consider, and one of the first things that you should do if you're looking to actually make a go of this for your business. So, and this part is definitely going to echo some of the things that Allison said. Building your creative presence online comes down to a couple things. First and foremost is your profile. And as far as like what your profile picture, what constitutes a visually stimulating photograph, I think that's subjective. But the one thing that's not subjective is the size of those images. If you have the wrong size image, it just doesn't look professional. It could look blurry. You could cut, things out, have it cropped in a way that isn't, the way that you intended it to look. So in this case, size does matter. And you need to make sure that the images are the correct size and resolution. So it's kind of like, you're looking for an image that has that like Goldilocks potential, it's like just right. So the profile photos should be 400 by 150 pixels, and cover photos, which are the ones at the top. So your profile picture is the one that goes in the circle. And that can be a little bit challenging to find the right one. So I think, using I think a logo is always the best way to go with those on Facebook, at least. But I mean, I've seen people do like artwork, and that's okay too. Their cover photo is 820 by 312. But remember, it took me a long time to realize that people are not accessing media the way I am. I'm on my computer all day, so I'm accessing it on my desktop. A lot of people, most of the people are accessing it on their mobile phone. So you want to find an image that could also be able to be seen at the mobile view, which is 640 by 360. So, it's just kind of like, finding those. I tell you to use Canva. Canva has been, it's been my best friend. I can't believe I ever got through it before. I'm sorry to all the graphic designers out there. I still use you for the big things. And also remember that Facebook cover photos don't need to just be photos anymore. You don't need to just use static images. You can use videos, which I think really for artists could be extremely beneficial, especially if you want to do process. So your bio, just a lot of things that Allison said, just be authentic, be engaging, be who you are. Don't worry about sounding too professional. You are a creative, your personality should shine through in what you're writing. I think, it's always a good idea to kind of say what sets you apart from other people in your field and what makes your creative journey special. And I think just as an artist, that's something good for you to know and to have, to kind of fuel you. And I do agree with putting any achievements or accolades in there, because that does establish credibility. I think that's super important. It shows your expertise. I also think that incorporating relevant keywords, so identifying like keywords or phrases that that are relevant to your artistic style or your niche or what you do, because when people are searching for things, that can help you end up in search results, or you can end up in those suggested, those people you may know, things you may like. For hashtags, I mean, I'm on the fence about hashtags. I think in Instagram, it makes a little more sense. In Facebook, I'll throw a couple in there, but I think it's not just about creating your own. If you are a painter, go on a couple other, just search online and see what are popular hashtags for painting or popular hashtags for painters, and use those and pick one or two. It can't hurt, but I definitely, in the days of like having lines and lines of hashtags, I don't think anybody's really quantified whether or not that made any difference. And on Facebook, I definitely do not think that it does. Again, echoing Allison, a call to action, even in your bio on Facebook, you should always be telling people what to do. And whether that's go on your, check out my work, go to my event, give me your feedback, whatever it is, sign up for my email newsletter, always giving them like that next step, because after you're finished reading the bio, it's like, well, what do I do next? So giving them that suggestion. And then also it's important to update it as you grow as an artist or as a creative, going in there and letting people know, like, what's the latest thing that happened. And if they're engaged with you, that's going to show up in their feed. It's some new engaging content. So it's important to do that. And then the last thing is showcasing your work. And obviously that's a big duh, but I say this because don't just dump all your photos in. It's important how you present them. You can either select your best work and use quality versus quantity, if you like quantity, that's great too. But the most important thing is to create albums and collections that will help people to easily navigate, and choose out of that album, choose a cover photo that is like that will stop people, that will make them want to go in and click on that album. And when I say cover photo, when you've got all your pictures that once you've loaded them in, you can choose one of them as your cover photo. And that way, when all your albums are up, people can kind of scan and you can arrange them chronologically, you can arrange them thematically, you can arrange them according to your journey. Like, this is my stuff when I started, this is my blue period, this is my metal period, but just in a way that kind of helps guide people. I mean, there's so much on social media all the time, and between the videos and this and that anything that you can do to ease people's navigation is really going to help them want to engage with you more. And I think also it can be a pain. And I know I myself I haven't done this a lot when it comes to event photos, a caption or a description. And that's why I say, if you kind of curate and don't put too much quantity and a little more quality, people want to read, especially when it comes to art, because not everybody's an artist and people find that fascinating. So it's just like, how did, what about this work? And what were you thinking when you made it? So just providing a little context in that caption can be really important. But when it comes down to it, your setup is great, but on Facebook,
Uh-oh, Patti froze. Patti, if you can hear us,
that have a lot of engagement.
you're back.
Oh, my back? Oh.
You froze briefly.
Oh, am I good now? I never have an unstable connection. I think Facebook doesn't like that I'm giving you all these tips and tricks.
You're good now.
So yeah, the minute I said you can beat the algorithm, look how that happened. That was crazy. So one of those things that you can do when you're engaging at your audience, very, very simple, enabling content, like make sure your comments are turned on, make sure that people are able to interact with your posts by putting feedback. And the next thing is also to not ghost them, right? To respond to comments and engage in those conversations. But at the risk of getting shut down completely, I do want to talk about the Facebook algorithm, because this was something that I even was kind of like, I thought, I had some, I knew some things, but when I was doing some research for this presentation, I said, let me really get into it. So Essentially, the algorithm decides what content is relevant to show in each user's feed based on a couple different factors. So everybody's feed is going to look different based on, because it's personalized just for them, which makes it even more confounding to like kind of like figure it out. So these are the things, the first is inventory. First, Facebook takes an inventory of all the content that could show up in your feed. And that includes posts from people, that are your friends or people that you're friends with. And it also includes content from pages that you like or groups that you're a part of. So it kind of just takes this inventory. Then the algorithm assesses the relevance of that copy to you, that content to you based on your interaction with that content, whether you've liked it, whether you've saved it, that kind of thing, and how often you interact. It also looks at when the post was published. And so that's why when people talk about timing, it's like, I use Facebook all day, but some people only use it at certain times of the day. So certain users are going to have content based on that timing. Then after that, then the algorithm decides to make some predictions. It gets all swami and uses those signals to make predictions about what you want to see. So it analyzes past behavior to try to understand how likely you are to engage with a piece of content. So let's say that you regularly interact with a certain friend's post. The Facebook algorithm will take that as a sign that you want to see more content from that friend. So that's why right there, having people engage with you and having those people that are constantly, you're gonna be on their feed all the time. If you see that somebody drops off an engagement, maybe engage them. And there are, there are a couple tips that I found for beating the Facebook algorithm. I think from what I can see, Facebook seems to be prioritizing quality and authenticity above everything. So that's why you need to create quality content that is quality content that drives interactions and quality content that you create. Sharing other people's content is great just from an engagement standpoint, but you need to actually create your own content as well. So your own pictures and not just constantly just sharing what other people have out there. So, high quality and original videos. Videos are king. Facebook loves videos, but they also want you, a tip that I found out from somebody is they don't want you to share. If you have a video on Vimeo, they don't want you to share the Vimeo video. They want you to upload the video to Facebook and share it from Facebook. So that's a little tip that somebody told me recently, because I couldn't understand why my videos weren't doing that great because I was using Vimeo. So, and then also huge is roping in brand advocates, those people I talk about that are engaging with you all the time. Like they will be your best bet at beating that algorithm. They will help to share your content. Then their friends see that, it's kind of like what is that? It's kind of like a pyramid scheme, but in a nice way that people are just kind of multiplying the content as we go along. So what makes a good post? There's obviously, again, it all really comes down to your audience. You're going to have to look into your analytics, and I'll talk about that in a quick second. So you got to consider your intent. Obviously, is it, what do you want? What is the desired intent of the post? Is it just to tell people what's going on? Is it to get them to go somewhere? So whatever that is, though, you match that compelling call to action to the intent. It has to be clear. I don't mind a good rambling post, but from the beginning to the end, the people should be able to follow, like after you've read the whole story, what is it that you want them to do? I do think branded graphics, I don't think everything has to look matchy, but if you've got a logo, pop it in there. If you have a color palette that you like, put it on the background, like Allison was saying, the guy that she had liked his post, the blue that he used was from his brand. So having those little identifying characteristics as people are scrolling through their feed, they'll know, oh, Viva uses pop colors, that's Viva's, or, Allison uses orange, that's Allison's content. So it just helps people, helps to kind of cut through the clutter a little bit. I'd say with visuals, it's easy to say use standout visuals, but when you consider that people literally, it takes about 2.6 seconds for people's eyes to choose what they want to settle on. Like you've got like this much time. So I would say always high res. Our camera phones are awesome. They're it's like having like a professional camera in your hand sometimes. Skip the stock images unless it completely makes sense with what you're doing. And always think about mobile. 88% of Facebook users use mobile to access the platform. So sometimes, I like to test the images on mobile instead of just publishing to my desktop. I like to see how it's going to look here. And then also, your tone, make your tone conversational. I know if it's your business page, you want to be professional, but it also has to be you, and you're creating this like brand voice. So just write how you talk, and I mean, sometimes gotta like use spell check and stuff, but just kind of just make it a reflection of who you are. And ultimately it depends on your audience and just analyzing and seeing what resonates with your audience. So I know I already said it's about engagement, but it's true. It's absolutely true. So you want immersive content. So immersive content is like behind the scenes, showing your process, a sneak peek into who you are as a creative, bringing people in. And if you're uncomfortable with being on camera and you don't want to be in your videos, and you don't know what to do with videos, there are plenty of apps out there, or just even I think in Facebook, you can just stitch still photos together to create a video. So it doesn't have to be this content that you don't have to be Martin Scorsese going out there and like creating these amazing videos. But Facebook's been pretty transparent that video is the top performer on the top performing content on the platform. You're going to want to involve people, ask questions, simple questions, polls, involve people in decision making, like which thing should I make next? Which one do you like better? That kind of thing really helps people feel like you're invested in them and they become invested in you. And then interact, like how Allison said, trending topics. This can increase your chances of appearing in people's feeds, but people are also more likely to comment because it's something that they've been seeing, it's relevant. I personally like to use National Days calendar, which tells you which every day, like it's National Popcorn Day, it's National Fajita Day, and I kind of connect that to themes. And I find that's a really easy way for me to be fun without having to try too hard. And believe me, there are at least 8 or 9 national things per day. You will find something that works with you. It's awesome. It's one of the best things I found. And I also think that contests or giveaways are great too, especially for lead generation. If you want to grow your email list, if you want to, it can be something as simple as entering a random drawing or a free art class or a ticket to an event, but it's definitely, that's the way to get people to get their email addresses, which is something you obviously don't get from just their interaction on Facebook. So we talked a lot about getting people to engage with you, but how do you get the audience in the first place? So you have to build your audience. So the number one thing is you need to hit the follow button. You need to follow other people. I follow a ton of people on Instagram. Specifically, I follow way more people than follow me. I'm hoping someday to even that out a little bit more, but you have to follow others, join a lot of things, or just, make sure that you interact, and then also engage on other people's posts. I'm not saying you have to engage on everybody's posts, but if there are people you've identified or brands or artists that you've identified as important to you, I suggest that you engage with them so that their followers will start to see your things and whatnot. So it's just a good idea. And then Facebook groups is something that I absolutely think has helped Viva a lot. There's a lot of, especially I think locally, people, locally themed groups, people are very in tune to those. Obviously, it can be hard. There's a lot of negative news on those, but maybe in some ways that makes your stuff stand out a little bit more because it's not the same old griping. But I also think it's great because, it obviously, you can join groups that will give you the audience that are in line with what you're putting out or what your interests are. And like with any group that you're a part of, your active participation is required. So don't just join a group and like stand in the shadows and just watch what happens. You have to like engage with the group. And one thing I've noticed too is, so Facebook allows each group admin to decide whether or not they want to let business pages join. So you might find that as a business page, you're not able to join. I find that all the time with Viva. So I actually end up joining with my own page. So that's just one of those little quirks. I join as my personal page, but then I'll share my business content. And also I will tell you, be sure to read the group admin rules, because some of them do not like even if it's, some of them don't like ticketed events. So like, for instance, I'm blocked on one Facebook group in Fall River because I was selling tickets to Taste of Fall River and they don't allow you to sell, and I didn't know, and now I'm blocked. So, and then that's why, you know, it's also a good idea to start your own group, and then you can make your own rules. So starting your own group is kind of like what Allison was talking about with stories. Like now that's your group, and you can like offer exclusives or offer, like, you know, if you have a sale, special percentages off. And it's just a way for you to interact and kind of maybe have private sales and whatnot. So it's a really great way to kind of create like your tribe, your online tribe. So, yeah, going back to timing, a lot of people say that timing affects engagement. I just think the most important thing, and it really all comes back to analytics and your audience. What might be the right time for somebody else's brand is not necessarily the right time for your brand. There's no one size fits all answer. So the business suite is really good because they have an audience tab, and it's easier to understand, you know, where your Facebook followers are located, what time zone they're in. And you can also, if you've been posting regularly, your contents tab can look for patterns. So I think, you know, you just use those learnings to post content when your audience is most likely to be active and engaged. And the only way you can see that is by posting and testing and then looking at the metrics. It is a little bit of a process, but Facebook makes it really easy. It's not like Google Analytics where you have to like really dive in. I'll be figuring out Google Analytics for many years. Frequency, again, test what works best for your audience. I mean, I think a good rule of thumb I like to say is once a day. But if that's a little too cumbersome, then, you know, don't let that be the reason you don't post at all. If you can only post 3 times a week, then that's what you post. But I do think consistency is a good thing. Like some people do like Motivation Monday, or like deep thoughts on painting. And that's every Wednesday. Every Wednesday I get on the camera and I talk about my latest painting. Or like every Friday, I'm going to unveil a new sketch. So that builds excitement and expectation. And so people are like, oh, I wonder what sketch she's going to do today. And so they'll look for you. So building consistency is a really great thing. And then I also think to make it easier for you, if especially on the posting once a day, scheduling. Facebook, the business suite allows you to schedule, and you can schedule up to 90 days in advance. So, I mean, I always have my content people try to schedule at least a week in advance, because things happen. You know, I'm going to post, you get you have something else you need to do, then you don't get to the post. If you schedule it, you're all set. And then usually Facebook will give you some suggested times based on your audience. So give that a shot too. Yes, this is one of my favorites. I love a good Facebook event page. I think you should always do one. And I don't always use absolutes, but I always do a Facebook event page. And it's also because when somebody says that they're interested in your event, they're going to get, anytime that you post in that event, they're going to get those updates. So it's really important that you post back on that page and let people know the updates. And it's also good just for you to know, especially if you're having a small event, like who's coming. And once you have that, then those are people that you can further engage with in different ways. It's usually going to be a much smaller group than on your regular page. It's also easier for people to share, and it's easier for them to help you promote. It's just it's a quick click of the button. And I think that I also would say that I am really a big fan of Eventbrite as well. Eventbrite, even if it's a free event, I still like to do it. I still like to provide people for a method of RSVPing. And it's also just, people can also follow you on Eventbrite, so that every time you have a new event, they get notified, which is just an additional way to kind of build a following of people who are really interested in knowing what you're doing. And just like Instagram has stories, Facebook has stories. And I have learned that through some of my research that stories is a good way to skip the line of the Facebook algorithm. So if you post a lot, that can kind of be considered like not spamming, but like clogging people's news feeds. So this is a great way to put out just quick content. If you put out a couple posts and then you want to put out a story, it's a quick way of skipping that, especially since they're temporary by nature. They're only usually up for 24 hours. So those types of posts on the stories should kind of create like a sense of urgency or exclusivity, like encouraging them to do something, or encourage like letting them know, oh, like I'm going to be putting out a new sketch on Friday, you know, check it out. And so it's just an easy like touch base with people. And it's really, it's a good way to supplement your main feed and not get people like if you're just that type of person that's posting all the time, and which we do on Viva. And I've started to, you know, we not only do the store, but we do the regular posts. That can be a lot for some people. So we're trying to use stories more to kind of like break it up. And it's also Facebook stories can be cross-posted to Instagram stories. So it's a great way to have that cross-platform without having to change the size of your graphic. Because if you try to post the same thing that you post on Facebook and Instagram, it's not going to work because of the links, because of the size of the images. So Facebook stories, though, is the same. So that's an easy way. If you just have a couple minutes, there you go. Put one, you get two out of that. And then metrics, I will tell you, they are the most valuable, but they are easily my least favorite part of social media. And I don't do it nearly enough. So I'm telling you something that I should follow myself, which is, you know, classic. But if you have a professional dashboard, which literally shows you, it kind of breaks down the more important things. So your post reach, your post engagement, and your page likes. So you're really, you know, those are like the holy grails of what you need to know for metrics. Then as you can see there, it says see more insights. So you can really delve in deep here. You know, you've got your engagement, you've got your follower growth. These are all your page, you know, your overall page. But then this is something I've really been getting into, is the recent content, is like who's engaging. And then obviously this one right here, you know, Taste of Portugal, I got way more post reach on that. So that means to me, like my first impression is people like that culinary content. So it's like kind of, you know, keeping a list, and you can be as detailed as you want and how you figure that out, but you know, how you record those things, but just giving you some insight into the types of things that people like about what you're posting, or you know, and change things up. One time post a long one time post a short one, and see like what are people reacting to more. It's nice little, it's like a fun little social media experiment. And also this professional dashboard will also tell you your conversion rate. So if you have like specific goals, like so that call to action, if your conversion, if the thing that you wanted them to do was go to your website, it'll show you, you know, it'll track that. It'll track like, you know, which of the content actually sent people to your website, or was it better, or, you know, were they more engaged with the content where you told them to go to your online store? So it's kind of like, it's an easy way to see like, you know, how am I achieving that desired reaction, the desired action that I wanted them to do. And the all-important audience demographics. They do provide audience insights like age, gender, location, interests, and that's also another way for you to better tailor your content, is by taking a look at this. It doesn't take long. I usually pop in every so often just to see, you know, what you can see on your page as well, but this will aggregate it for you, and it's obviously so much easier that way. So we've obviously come to the end, and I know that we're doing questions at the end, and so I will kind of table this, but I thank you so much for allowing me to talk about Facebook. I do spend an inordinate amount of time on Facebook, so I'm happy to be able to share the learnings, and I'm going to turn it over to Helen, who's going to talk about email.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patti. So here we are, we're going to talk about email marketing and email marketing services, why you need them, why you use them. My experience is in graphic design. But I'm not actually going to talk about too much about content. I'm going to talk about all the other basics about getting started, because a lot of what Patti and Allison have already said applies. So I will now share my screen. And here we are, the basics. Avid email marketing. So today I'm going to talk about what is it and why would we use it, and why use an email marketing service particularly, finding an email marketing service, how to build your subscriber list. Whoopsie, try that again. Learning how to use your service, and then what are the best practices with sending emails, and some design basics, basically basics. So what is email marketing? Email marketing is the practice of using a subscriber list and sending out emails regularly to that list to update your subscribers on your creative work, upcoming events, activities, and anything else that is relevant to your creative work and that might interest your subscribers. So the good news is all this content that you're creating in Instagram and Facebook can be used and should be reused in your email marketing. You want to tie all of this together because why do we use it? It's one part of your marketing strategy. You should have many fingers out there, as many as you can handle. Because social media is ephemeral, things go by, people miss them. Your email will always be in their inbox unless they delete it. So you need to cover a lot of different areas to get attention. So why do we use an email marketing service? You see some scary words up there, legality and spam. There are legal issues in running a list or a subscriber list. So it is not illegal to send marketing emails from a personal account. I could send to 20 people an email about my next sale. That's not illegal to do, but there are strict laws in place about sending emails to people. So why are those laws so strict? Because spam. Spam is a big problem, as we all know it from our own inboxes, and the laws are strict. They vary by country, they change often. So you don't want to keep track of all that on your own little 20-person list. You want an email marketing service that must comply with those rules, watches them change and keeps track of them, and their job is to keep your email out of spam folders. So it's much better than trying to do it on your own. So how do you select one, or how do you find them? The important thing is there are free options. Yay! So I do a simple search, best email marketing services for this year. Should always put the year in. And then you want to review those. There'll be a review site that'll say these are the 7 best or these are the 10 best, and I'll have some links to things like that for you. But you want to review that information and look for the free plan and see what it gives you, because the details are important. Now, there's a couple of things to look at. This is a table from a review site. You can see that some free services have an unlimited amount of subscribers and very high numbers of emails you can send in a month. Some are very low, like MailChimp. So if you're starting out with 20 people on your list, you might want to start with MailChimp or one of the better known ones to learn what you need to learn in doing this. But you can look for a free service as you grow that gives you more if you want to do it that way. Or if you already have a large list or you think you do, you want to look into some of these other ones. So again, I'll put links to that in the chat at the end, but always look at your details a little bit. Just look and see if this makes sense to you in what you're doing. Woo. So there are legacy services. So for instance, right now, all of these that you're looking at in this little table are new except for MailChimp. And even this one, Send in Blue, has recently changed its name to Brevo. So these services change often, and you want to be aware of that. So this is one reason when you do a review search, you want this year. But MailChimp and Constant Contact are legacy. They've been around for a very long time, particularly Constant Contact. They're not highly rated to use, but they are stable and consistent. So, and if you wanted that, then I would go with MailChimp. And the reason you want to do that is because they're going to be the best people to keep you out of the spam folder in people's inboxes, because they've been doing it longest and they know it best. But some of the newer ones, like I said, you get much better plans, you get a lot better service. Really, you need to try them out and see which one you like and what you need from it. Okay, the next most important thing is, once you've selected a service, is you need some subscribers. Now, you may already have some. You may need to know how to build them. You've heard Allison and Patti talk about that as being part of your social media strategy. So, but first, for a lot of us, we get our email signups in person, on the ground, when we go do something out in the world. So always have your clipboard and sign-up sheet ready. Or if you're more advanced, iPad with a sign-up. But something where you can say to somebody, Oh, if you want to know more about what I'm doing, sign up here. Always give people that chance when you're in person and directly relating to them. Also, good tip from Den, when you have a sign up sheet and you see somebody sign up, go over, engage with them, read it, make sure you can understand what they've written. Because so often when people handwrite it, you look at it later and you're, no idea what they wrote. So it's also a way to engage people. But yeah, it's good to know. Okay. You can use sign up buttons on social media. You'll have seen them all over the place if you don't have them already. If you have a good email marketing service, this will be part of it. It will help you build the buttons and help you get them integrated with your social media. This is where the service is wonderful. You're not doing this for yourself. You can also have them on your website, and it's the same thing. You can create it within your email marketing service. Now, if you're running your website, know how to put it on there. There is another option if that's just not your thing, and that's creating a landing page, which will have a sign-up form. And it can be branded to you, and you can give people that link if you need to. So you don't have to have a website in order to have a place where people can sign up. So learning how to build emails and do all that. It can be very overwhelming if something you've never done before. But this is where your help button, your question mark, your how the heck do I do that is your friend. Because almost all these email marketing services have great video and text tutorials. They're there to help you make a good email. So just go in and use them. I know, don't read the documentation. Don't be like that. Go in, watch it. It will help you use the service. And the other thing you're going to hear me say over and over again, especially if you're new to doing this, is go ahead and use their templates. Now, if you go in, you've logged into your service, they will definitely want you to use their templates. They will show them to you. They will have templates for all kinds of things. Holiday greetings, a big event, et cetera, et cetera. The best thing to do is to find a general template that you like and then use that consistently for your emails. You can change colors, you can do all kinds of things, but it can keep you very consistent. And the other reason to use the template is now people look at email on all kinds of devices, and it does not look the same on everything. These templates are created so things will look good on phones and tablets and your computer. Again, you don't have to think about it. The template does it for you. So it's a really good reason to use them. If in your learning process, you Google or use a YouTube search to find more information about how to do something on your email marketing service or anything about email marketing, check the date. The laws change all the time. You want to be in this year whenever you're looking for instruction or information. And then a handy tip, which I should have followed myself, as Patti said, is that you could keep good emails that you see. You always get emails. I mean, we get LLB every day. We get, so much. Some of them are good, some of them bad. You like something, put it in a separate folder, good emails for inspiration and design, content, any reason. It's handy. I didn't do it, so I don't have good emails to show you. Okay, everything has best practices, right? And email list marketing has some as well. The biggest is only send emails to subscribers, don't spam. What does that mean? That means when you build a list, it's legal because people have said, yes, I want you to send me an email. But if you think, oh, it would be fun to send one to Joe Biden and put him on your list without his permission, that's illegal. So don't do it. And people do this a lot. Oh, maybe I'll just add this person. You can do it. Of course you can do it, but it's essentially illegal. So don't do it. Keep them short unless there's a reason for it to be long. Obviously, if it's a long newsletter or, something that goes on. But essentially, although we have unlimited pixels, we do not have an unlimited attention span. These do not equate. So quite often people will read the beginning or the end of your email. Skip the end, everything in the middle, if it's very long. Now that doesn't apply to newsletters and all that sort of thing. Generally speaking, keep it to 2 emails a month, unless it's some big deal or it's something that's serial and there's a reason to do it more often. Again, we get a lot of stuff in our inbox. You want to stand out because you're not there all the time, but when you show up, it's interesting. Something like that. Many services provide scheduling. So you can set up your email, get all ready to go, and they say, I want it to go out Friday morning or that sort of thing. This really helps you manage all this stuff. Always have a link to a website version of your email. That is what you see at the top of the email that says, view this email in your browser. There are a number of reasons to do this, and I'm not even going to go through all the many reasons. There might be a connection. They may not be on the device they really want to see it on, but maybe it doesn't look good because you screwed something up. So maybe something's not showing up, but if they can see it on the, when they go to the browser. So it's a good practice because you just never know. It's very handy, and it will always give people another way to see your content. Subject lines, a lot of people will tell you it's the most important thing. In a sense, it is. But remember, these people have signed up for your list, so they're interested in you and what you're doing. So as long as it matches your personality and your creative style and says something about you, it's a good subject line. However, I think this one's awesome that's on here. Ice skating pigs, a baby, and pork share signups. That got me interested. So if you can do something like that, and you can't for every email, it's ridiculous, but every once in a while, you can have an inspiration, and that's a good idea to use it. The other thing is to add preview text. Your email services will show that to you, but it's essentially what you see when you're on the phone and you have your email up, and you'll see the subject line, and then you'll see a few sentences. Now, if you don't put in a preview text, it will be something from your email, however you started your email. So it's better to put the preview text in so you can really kind of give people a clue to what's in it without them seeing the whole thing, kind of thing. Okay, design basics. Again, you're going to use those templates. Don't convey important information in a graphic. Here's why. This is an email in which all of the information, all the content is essentially in this graphic. However, I'm annoying and I block content in emails so that they don't have to wait for them to load. It's just a geeky thing I do. Lots of people do. So I don't know what this email's about until I load it. And I decide not to because they made it too hard for me already. I want something that lets me know what's going on without having to look at the images or load them if I'm on a slow connection. And always use alt text on images. Same thing here. There's no alt text, so I don't see what's there, but also somebody with low vision or blindness who's using a screen reader sees a blank email, just like I'm seeing it now, just like you're seeing it now, because the screen reader needs alt text to know what's in that image. So please use a little text in your emails. Don't make it all images, and always put alt text in. The other very important thing for us old folks is fonts large enough for everyone to read. This is an actual design rule that on digital devices, you should never have a font that's less than 16 pixels high, or that's its size, because there are lots of folks who can't read anything that small. And you want people to engage, you want people to read. So this is an important rule to keep in mind. Your templates should help you with it. They're not perfect in that regard. Contrasting colors for easy reading. Why? Because approximately 8% of our population are colorblind, which means they can't see things the same way you and I see them. Some folks don't have any color in their vision, completely black and white. So a headline, and some folks have what's called red-green color blindness and things like that. So for a lot of folks, they couldn't see the word headline in there because it's red on black. And for them, that would just look like all black or all red or something like that. So you always want to have contrast. You want to see something brightly against the background in order to help people get your message. You need a balance between images and text to keep interest. Again, unless you're writing a newsletter or you're a writer and the whole point is that it's all text, you want to do this, and your templates will help you with that. Most of them will show you a balance of text and images. People skim. They don't read through everything. Again, another reason to keep it short. So if you have to be long in your email, put the important information top and bottom. Just like people open a magazine from the back, some people always go to the bottom. So make sure with the most important thing, if it's your CTA, if it's your event, something about that is both at the top and the bottom if you have a long email. I call it tease and click. You'll hear it as CTA. It's essentially the same thing, a little bit of information and a button. And a lot of what you want to do when you're putting in some links in your email is you're sending people back to your social media or to your event page or to your Eventbrite event or to your website. Another way to engage them and connect with them and show them that you have cool content on your Instagram, or there's a new portfolio on your website. But you always want to get people, just like everything else, out of this email and into another part of your marketing, and generally speaking. Okay. You want to send test emails and check your email on phones, on tablets and computers. Again, your email service should help you with this. It will have a way for you to preview things. You will be able to send test emails and so on. All right, so here's a little good stuff. So this is a UPS email. Not very exciting, you would think, but it's got all the things I've talked about. It's got a click here to view. This is how your alts look when you have them on the image and the image doesn't load. So you know right away what this is about if you're reading. And if you've got a screen reader, it's very quick and easy, and you know exactly what's happening. If we load the images, you can see how much an image for visual people brings you into this email immediately, in a way that it didn't when there were no images. So the images are important in that regard. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to come up so fast. Anyway, here's AHA. And this again is design professional designer, all that sort of thing. So it's something to aspire to in these cases, but it gives you, again, all the good stuff is there. There's view as a web page. If there's a strong logo, you know immediately who it's from. And then it's quick and it's easy. And here's your tease and click or CTA. They tell you what's going on. And then, hey, see the full list of events, gets you out of the email and back into either their website or wherever the link goes. Then, of course, there's always information at the bottom of your email. Again, this is something your email service will help you with. This is called the footer, and it will always have information in here. And it should have, for instance, a link to your website if you have it, social media links if you have them, and all that sort of thing. Now, you would think, why is this a good stuff? Well, this is Professor Harp. Obviously, the man's not into templates, but again, this is simple and it has everything. You can view the email in your browser, you know who sent it, and you know because you're on his list that he's sending you things about when he's playing. So the first thing he's going to tell you is where and when and what time. And then he'll get into the details and all that sort of stuff. So it's not beautiful, but it's very clear, it's very short. And if you want to know where he's playing this weekend, you've got it. And then there's also a nice little CTA about, hey, I have a CD, you can visit my website, you can share my stuff. So these are 3 that you can see have things going on that are like what I've been trying to show in this. Okay, so I will send these resources out in the chat for anybody who might be looking to do this sort of thing. And then I will pass this back to Dan.
Okay, thank you all very much. That was great. A lot of information. We have a few questions already in the chat. Feel free to add more. I also want to say that those slide decks that you just saw will all be up on the website in the resources section of our of this workshop when we do the updates. The slide decks will probably show up tomorrow, but the video will be a little while after that. So you'll be able to get to various links that are available in those slide decks. And I think we've covered an awful lot of ground. We have a couple of questions. Let's see, we'll start off with, I have to scroll back up here. Jasmine Cantu, can you unmute yourself? I believe this question was for Patti, but I'm not 100% sure.
Hello?
Yes, you're there.
Hi. Yeah, I was wondering, how can you preview on a mobile device? Do you have to go through a service to do that?
So I think, well, I mean, I'm gonna, if you don't mind if I share my screen done really quick, because I
No,
have
go right ahead.
to show. Okay. So I assume I don't usually use the Meta Suite on my phone, but I know that it's set up the same way. So if you look here, this is the back end. This is it's just business.facebook. This is your Meta Business Suite. And so when you click create a post, you know, I have my Facebook and my Instagram here, but obviously I only want to do, you know, if I only wanted to do my Facebook, it allows you to put everything in, and then you can, it has a feed preview. And if you see here, you can look at it, how is it going to appear on Facebook and how is it going to appear on mobile? So I think that even though, so if you're trying to access it from mobile, that might be a little difficult. I don't do a lot of that posting on my phone, just because I really do need to like see like the full screen and see all the things. But if you want to see how something is going to look on mobile, there's definitely previews. I mean, I'm not obviously not putting stuff in, but if you had a photo, it shows you exactly how it's going to come up, which is really beneficial if you want to, you know, if you're putting something in and you're like, how is this going to look? Is it going to get cut off and whatnot? I don't know if that was exactly your question or.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
I wasn't sure how to go about that. Like, can you use your phone? Do you need to use a laptop? Will it go back and forth?
I'm pretty positive that, you know, I mean, now you've got me curious, so I'll go and take a look at it. But yeah, I really try to do like, of course I post from my phone, but I really like to use my desktop when it comes to this kind of stuff. Because as you can see here, you can add a link, you can do all kinds of different things, add emojis. And then this is what I was talking about, your scheduling options. So you can publish now, you can schedule, but if you schedule, it also tells you this is the times when your audience is most active. Now, I don't always believe all that. Like I think I can see in my analytics, but I've tested it, and it's a good way to, it's just a good way to, you know, to test things out and to see how it looks. And then of course here you can also schedule your Instagram posts. I just don't suggest you do one size fits all, because then you'll end up with bad Instagram content like I used to do in the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. If we have other questions, you can type them in, or you can just raise your hand. You can use the little raise hand icon to ask other questions. Or have we just buried you in so much information? I do want to add one thing about email marketing that it's a pet peeve of mine, unfortunately. You cannot sell or pass your list to somebody else. That is both illegal and really bad behavior. If I gave my permission for Patti to have my list in Viva Fall River, and then she sells it to Battleship Cove, and I start getting emails from Battleship Cove that I never asked for, I'm gonna think, I bet you Patti did that, or whatever, and I'm quite likely to unsubscribe from both. So besides the fact that it's illegal, because you only gave her permission, you didn't give Battleship Cove permission.
Yeah, that's the key thing that is also illegal to do. And people will ask you if they can buy your lists. This will happen if you get popular.
Yeah.
And after a while, you will get tagged, enough unsubscribes or enough people complaining, and you could possibly be banned from the platform. I once worked for a place where we had a really old list, and it wasn't even that people had opted in, but it was such an old list that we were getting so many like bounce backs that it looked like we were spamming people, and we were like in email jail for a while. Yes. So
yeah, if you have been doing it for a while, you have to maintain your lists and clean things out. But again, the services now are better, and they do that to a degree for you. If it's bounced 3 times, they're out of your list. So you don't get that as much. That's all updated.
We have another question from Paula Robinson Deere. Paula, you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Sure. Yeah, my question is, I've gotten away from all this stuff because I've been trying to figure out who I am, and now I've sort of figured out who I am. So I wanted to know, you know, I'm sure that you don't just suddenly decide that you want to start an email marketing campaign or or a Facebook campaign or Instagram or whatever. And so this was sort of for all of the speakers. How far ahead do you begin to plan your campaign before you list the first part of it? You were saying you post every day, some were saying post once a week. Do you put together like a week or a month's worth of stuff so that you sort of know where you're going and how it's going to trail, or are you ad hoc?
So a lot of it depends on how organized you are.
Mhm.
A lot of people do things spontaneously, but if you're serious about your marketing, then it's a good idea to plan out what you can plan out.
Mhm.
Be ready for spontaneous things. So I'm just going to go from the artist's point of view because I know it best. A lot of times we've got a lot of the year, we know where we're going to be showing and what we're going to be doing. There's always things that come up, but usually you've got a pretty good idea. And that's when you should start planning out when you're going to do a major push or what you're going to do, on any given time to tie into what your activities are, right? So it really depends on what kind of creative you are. If you're a musician, it's almost the same. You know most of your gigs, so you know how you can plan out your marketing strategy. That's how a marketing professional does it. You can decide to do it that way. A lot of us don't because it's just a lot to do. It depends on where you're at in your own process. But I highly recommend it. I always recommend it to clients, but they rarely follow my suggestions, that you do plan it out. Because things can come up anytime, sure. But if you've got it planned and you break your leg, you're still able to get your marketing out because you're not going to be interrupted. You've already got it planned out. So what you can plan, I think it's great when you can do that. It gives you a peace of mind, a sense of stability, and things are there even if something happens. So it's a good thing, but it can be hard to do.
Yes, I agree. It's quite hard to do. And a lot of the times I've just kind of winged it, but then you get very anxious, but then you send it out, you feel good. And then you wing it again and you're anxious all over. So I remember one time I was traveling and so I had to do a bunch, I had to batch content. And I remember feeling, such a light weight. And so now I've been trying to do that, even with social media, with my posts on Instagram, batch content, like a certain day I will do these videos or a certain day I would do certain. So I've been becoming better at it. It's just really practice and you will appreciate it in the end. There are times when you're still like, I should send an email about this thing. But, as time goes by, for me, it's gotten better. But, years and years of just like scrambling, it's not good for the anxiety. But once I've started to batch content, it's a game changer. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I think planning content is the best idea. But I operate at such a breakneck speed and we are doing a million different things at once that I'd say 50%, at least a good 50% of our content is just spontaneous because we're constantly getting new things in from people. We're obviously just not posting about our own things. But when I do something like restaurant week, that is something that we look at the month and we have a content calendar and we literally post, okay, this week it's restaurant recruitment. This week it's about introducing the restaurants. This week we're going to do polls and we kind of plan it out so that there's really grouped engagement beforehand. So with big things, we definitely do. But I think having that mix, I mean, if you're a person who loves planning and control and then that's your jam, then that's what you should do it. But I do think there's a spontaneity that is important as well, just to kind of be like, this is something that I'm excited about, I found interesting, I'm going to pass that on to you. So, but yes, I think scheduling is amazing. It's a nice thing to do.
And I just want to mention that Kareem said in the chat, also plan a day to film and create content. That's a great thing, especially if you've got more than one job, so many of us do. You're going to say, that Friday, I'm going to go in my studio, take pictures, and I'll be able to use them for lots of things. That's the other thing I just want to mention again. You can reuse that content, chop it up a different way. Repeating things doesn't hurt you on social media. It's true. You can keep posting the same thing. It's not too much.
Also, I'm going to add, I work a little differently, but I have many irons in the fire, practice best practice, my art, my art brokerage, many different things. So when I'm trying to do something around advertising or an event or whatever, I create text documents for each thing. And I pre-write all of the things, and I attach all the hashtags and the call outs to other organizations to those. And then I kind of put a rough schedule together. So then I look at those in the morning and I see, okay, today is the day I plan to do shout out for practice best practice and do half a dozen different posts throughout the day. And they're going to be this post. And then I just have to copy it, paste it in, and off it goes. Now, sometimes I do that with scheduling, but sometimes I just do it with straight from the text document, depending on how organized I happen to be in that particular week. But keeping it all pre-written and where you can copy it and rewrite it or copy it and paste it, and things like the hashtags you're going to include so you don't forget some, and the organizations or people you're going to call out so you don't forget them, is extremely useful in terms of keeping yourself organized and keeping your marketing on track. Okay, we have another question from Jasmine. Pop yourself back in and ask again, Jasmine.
On the screen.
Hi, so I currently work at a dispensary. I do our inventory, but I also help one of the girls do some of our marketing. And I've just gotten questions, not from staff or customers, just more people in my personal life, wondering if it's a good idea to mix the two. And I know a lot of people in the industry keep their personal life separate when it comes to their cannabis life. If that made any sense.
Yes, it did. I guess it depends on what it is. If it's like videos of you smoking, probably not. But I think that, especially in this area, I'll speak from a forward perspective. We've got all the dispensaries here. People are now starting to talk about how we should be looking to cannabis dispensaries as a way they should be they're the perfect event sponsors, they're a business just like anybody else. If they were illegal, then I would be like, well, that's obviously, but they're legal. And I think if you feel like your audience or that they're super conservative, then no. But again, that's one of those things again with analytics, post something. And if you see that it gets crickets, then you know that the people who are on your page are not down with it. But if you see a bunch of people then, I would test it out. But I think that as more and more, we've got 28 states now that are recreational marijuana. I think people are getting more hip to it. It's all right. It's here. It's not going anywhere. But it's always good to be cautious and test it out and see, how people feel.
Okay, cool. And I know, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead, Jasmine.
My work is working with I work in Halifax, and we're partnering with the town hall to do a fireworks show. So I know they're trying to be more involved as a community entity, not just the pot shop down the street.
Yeah, and I know, and I think too, and again from my experience here in Fall River, it's medicinal, and I think that's you have to look at it from a health and wellness perspective, and not just as a recreational lifestyle choice. And I think that's always the best. That's always the best way to approach it, is that this is an alternative health lifestyle, and if you can kind of do that and focus on those things and not focus on this is a great way to hang out on a Friday night. It's just how you position it, because there are two sides to that coin.
Okay.
Also, you can look at some of the dispensaries that have social media presences and see what kinds of things they're posting and sponsoring. That'll give you some sense of the reactions to that will give you some sense of what kind of market they're reaching and whether it's connected to your market or not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Brooke, you had a question?
Oh, Ben, I'm sorry, I don't
Oh,
want to interrupt you,
I'm
but
sorry.
before
No,
we
go ahead.
get to Brooke's question, because it's very different, I just wanted to piggyback on what Patty was saying and kind of respond to Jasmine as well. And I think this is really just a question about what you want to share privately versus what you share publicly, right? So, I mean, I only know myself. So myself as an example, I am very private on social media. I don't share a lot about myself. I might share a few like big wins in my job that might go on there, but I don't talk about my employment and my work within my social media. I share pictures of my dog, right? Now, is that right or wrong? It's kind of how you want to approach it. So one of the things that you could consider is having 2 pages about yourself, like one where you go all out and you are the true you to yourself, and perhaps you have another, you can have as many accounts as you want as long as they're legal. And you could have another page where you talk a little bit more about the industry that you work in with a little bit of your own like personal flair to it. I have seen friends and colleagues that do have multiple profiles like that. And as Patty was saying, it's kind of based on your audience. And so I don't think there's any shame in being private. I do think that is okay. But at the same time, we're talking about marketing for creatives, right? So you have some type of entity that you're trying to get out there. So, consider having maybe dual profiles beyond just, we're talking business profiles, but maybe personal profiles too. And now to Brooke's question, because it was a good one.
Thank you.
Brooke, unmute yourself and
Pardon me not turning my camera on.
that's okay.
Have my
Whoops. Brooke, you're muted. Whoops, did we lose
She
her?
got kicked off. We lost her.
Oh. Well, hopefully she'll jump back in, but I will read her question because unless she pops herself back in, it's an important question and I think we need to talk about it. So she was asking, how far in advance of an event do you recommend starting to promote it? And how many posts should one make in the days and weeks before the event, the day of? And there was another piece to it a little further down. Also, which time period is most helpful to boost the post if this is ever helpful?
I will say quickly that I like a good month. For me, I do. At least having the event page up. I mean, I might not start posting crazy, but always having like the event page just so that people like see it, so that when I start posting about it, they're like, oh yeah, I did see something about that. But I mean, at the very least, I think 3 weeks, unless something comes up. I mean, I have things that sometimes just pop up and I'm like, we're going to do it and we're going to do it heavy for a week, but I'd say 3 weeks is like probably the like you want to, especially in the summertime. There are certain times like in January, you could do it the day before and people might come, but like this time of year, you got to do it like a month, 3 weeks. I also think that at boosting posts, I personally, it's crazy to me. My boosted posts do not do as well as my organic reach. I do great on organic reach. I still do not, I haven't figured out like, the boosting of the posts, and I do a little bit of Facebook advertising, but I think it's just one of those things you got to test it. I never put a lot of money into it. Just test a little bit and see what you can get. I think if it's local, you're all right with organic. If you want to start going further afield, that's when maybe a boosted post might help, because you need that extra oomph, because people might not be interacting with each other from there.
Yeah, I will second that. When we first started, we're using post boosting and got practically no traction from the boosted posts. All our engagement came from our organic stuff, and so we stopped. And our engagement and our reach has stayed as high as it always was. So I would say don't waste the money. And also, another thing about the timing, if it's something that has an event, that you're going to create a Facebook event or whatever, create it as soon as you know. Put it up there, post it to your feed, but then leave it for a while till you start getting closer, and then slowly ramp your marketing up. Putting it out there so people can find it and so it might show up is a good thing. There are people who may follow you who will see it because they follow you, and then they will tag it so they remember it later. It doesn't matter that, you know, it's months away. Like we have our September workshop. We have an event and it's up on our website. It's in September. We're not doing much in the way of advertising it at this point, but it's there. And we've already gotten 3 registrations for the workshop because it's there. So, you know, we'll start marketing it this summer. We'll mention it occasionally, like now. And, you know, but it's not a thing we're going to push. And then we ramp up. So we start making posts and we start calling people out, and the organizations that work with us start putting stuff out there. And then as we get closer, we ramp up. And the 2 weeks before, we ramp up. And then the couple of days before, we don't ramp up, but we get a little bit more emphatic, like register now, you know, still time to register, that kind of thing. So think about how you're trying to interact with your audience, and also look at how your engagement is going. But you still certainly can, you know, consider that when you know what it is, letting the world know about it is not going to hurt anything.
Yes, I agree. Give it about a month, 3 weeks, but also you have to think about what's most important, because for a lot of us, sometimes we have a lot of things going on and a lot of things to advertise. Like certain months are more busy, or things are coming up, like June is very busy for me. So you have to think about what is the biggest thing out of 3 or 4 events that you have, or things you want to tell people about, because you have to be careful that you are going to just like overwhelm them with information, and then they're mixing up dates for this one and that one. So you do want to think about what's most important and kind of spread it out, and then ramp up the advertising for that main one. You do have to put it in that hierarchy, because it could just get all over the place, and then people are like, I'm confused. Like a confused mind says no, you know. So definitely see what's more important and ramp up for that specific one, and then you could piece things around it.
Yep, that all same with the email. You start at least 3 weeks out with your first one to say this is coming, and then 2 weeks out a reminder, and then that last week, a few days before, another reminder. Wow. It can be very steady if you do it right.
The reminders really help, because sometimes you think you're annoying people, but they would be like, many of us, we're all human. We leave things to the end, or we're like, oh, we have 2 weeks for that. And then after it's like, oh, 1 more day to sign up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm so happy. Like many times I'm thinking, oh, I hope they don't think I'm too pushy for this. And then I get 5 or 6 registering on that day because I reminded them.
Yeah, we usually have our biggest registration day when we send out, we all do all our workshops on Wednesday. We usually send out a reminder on Monday, and that's usually our biggest registration day. May not be the biggest, like the total number, but it's the biggest single day. Whoops, Kareem has a question. Kareem Amado, unmute yourself and ask away. Kareem, you still there?
Hello, can you hear me?
There
Yep.
he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, so I just started my podcast show, and like lately I've been, like letting my followers and my fans know the date of that is like up and uploaded on YouTube. Do you suggest that I like promote it like that week, or just or promote it that day? And also, do you suggest that like I send like messages to like my followers? Because like with Instagram, like before I post something or when I'm about to post something, I always send like a positive message to like some of my followers, which increases more engagement on the post as well. So yeah, I just wanted to ask that and get some suggestions.
I think definitely a week before promoting is very good. So just reminding them that this is coming up, especially if it's a podcast, eventually they're going to be looking out for it, because I'm assuming that you're posting the same time, same day of the week, whether it's every week or once a month, so they'll look out. But I think you do need to promote. In terms of sending private messages to your followers, I'm not too sure about that. I don't do that. So I would just, put it out there, make a post. I really can't say if that works, because I don't always like when people send those group messages. So I'm not too sure about that, but maybe somebody else can talk about specifically that in sending the messages.
Yeah, I don't think you want to send messages promoting something. I think the idea of sending messages to connect, and that the way you've been using them sounds great. And I would stick with that. But yet you want, again, this is where you want to tease, right? So a week ahead of the podcast date is when you're going to say, this is what I'm so excited about in this podcast. I can't wait for you to hear this thing, something like that, to get people ready. And then as you get closer, let them know it's going to be when it's going to air.
Yeah, especially if it's already in the can and you know what the content is and you can tease some of the content. That's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, from a Facebook standpoint, that's this is like the where you would like create a group if you really wanted a group of people like who, wants to know about all the new things that you have going on, or like content, and that, or even if you want to like throw content ideas at them, that's a great way to like really create a group of people who want it, like, get the preview before it comes out or something. And yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm writing this all down. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, can I say something?
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of times people are worried about what you want to do, right? Like you want to like anticipate and you want to promote, right? But I feel like people don't also follow up with that promotion, right? Like yeah, podcast aired, right? Why don't you promote after as well? Right. So it's like the back end as well. So, and looking at the numbers on your podcast, like which podcast did better. And then I think it was Helen who said it. Somebody said reposting, old content, right? Like what podcast did the best? This one where I talked to, James. Well, reintroducing that, because obviously it did well, more people are going to be into it. But I'm interested in hearing your podcast.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And yes, the other thing for artists, for anyone after an event, post about it. You had great opening, show the pictures, This also that's that follow-up to and keeping people engaged in what you're doing. So especially if I'm not a podcast person, sorry. But if you get a lot of engagement for something, or you learn something from that podcast, something you can post about it afterwards to reflect back on it and keep people engaged. It's also good. It's just another way to create content in a sense.
Yeah, you want to take advantage of any content that comes your way that's relevant to what you're trying to promote. So yeah, if you had a good event, if you're an artist and you have an opening and you sell some stuff, try and take a picture of the person who bought it next to the piece that they bought, so you can post about that person. Of course, you could ask their permission to actually put it out there, but or just take a picture of a thing with the red dot. You want to, anything you can do to say, and you can go back and look at this, and this went really well, stay tuned for our next one, is going to help your overall marketing. Okay, we're getting down to the end of our time period. Any other questions? I don't want to cut anybody off, but I also don't want to keep us all here, past our 2 hours if there's no additional questions people wanted. Okay. I don't see anybody jumping in, so I guess we have covered the ground. I thank the presenters. You were all terrific. You covered an incredible amount of stuff. This video, I bet you, will be rewatched a lot just so people can go back and review what you all said. I know I wouldn't have been able to take notes fast enough, but it's just the nature of things. But that's why we post the transcripts and why we post the videos later. You can always go back. I'd like to encourage you all to spread the word about Practice Best Practice. Join our online, social media, Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is our primary. Get on our email list, check our website out on a regular basis, and let the world know that we are out here. All of our workshops are recorded and can be viewed again at any time for free. So you can always find that information from the website, and we keep all the resources that we produce up on the website forever as well. So as long as we exist, this content will exist. And thank you all for coming.